Biden administration today announced the toughest auto emission standards in U.S. history.
We're building the future of the electric vehicle.
It's June 29th, 1956, and the U.S. government is about to change the country forever. The reason? A $25 billion law to build a network of roads called the Interstate Highway System. The law was the brainchild of a coalition of lobbyists, led by the biggest car manufacturers and oil companies.
This is the American dream, an automotive age.
Their goal was to get more Americans to buy more cars and therefore buy more gasoline to go in those cars. And it worked. In the next 20 years, the number of cars in the US more than doubled. And more recently, these industries have been two of the biggest opponents of climate action. Cars have become so ubiquitous that they now produce more climate pollution than any other form of transportation. And transportation is the most climate polluting sector of the US economy. Car exhaust contains dangerous pollution that can cause heart and lung disease, asthma, and even cancer. In the United States, these health problems disproportionately affect Black people and communities of color. Let's go back to the Interstate Highway System.
The Interstate Highway Plan was pretty explicitly racist. The idea was to serve suburban commuters, who tended to be white, but to build them, the government paved over Black neighborhoods and left the communities divided against the wishes of the people who lived there. And these communities are still dealing with the health impacts of living so close to highways.
In 1975, the Environmental Protection Agency set the first limits on air pollution from light-duty vehicles, which are cars, SUVs, and small trucks that carry passengers. And since 1975, the amount of some key pollutants has fallen by 99%. They faced intense resistance from industry. General Motors even threatened to shut down production instead of reducing their pollution.
EPA structured their rules to give industry a lot of flexibility. Basically, EPA sets a limit on how much pollution a car can emit for every mile of driving. This is called a pollution standard. Car makers can still sell cars that don't meet the standard as long as they also sell cars that exceed the standard. EPA looks at the average across a company's fleet.
Turns out, GM didn't shut down. So, what about climate pollution?
Since 2010, EPA has set standards for greenhouse gas pollution from cars to fight climate change. Again, car and oil companies tried to stop this, but the Supreme Court stepped in to require it. And EPA has released updated standards every few years since then.
That brings us to April 12th, 2023. EPA announced their newest greenhouse gas standards for light-duty vehicles. These rules will apply to cars that are sold starting in 2027. And there's something a little different about them.
With these standards, 10 years from now, 2/3 of new cars sold in the US could be electric.
Instead of burning gasoline, EVs get energy from the electric grid, which produces way less climate pollution per mile. And it's only going to get better as more clean energy is added to the grid.
EPA standards have to be based on what is possible for car makers to do. And EVs make an ambitious standard possible, especially with investments from the Inflation Reduction Act.
This sucker's quick.
How's it drive? How does it feel? Would you buy one of these?
I would.
The same communities that were torn apart by highways and polluted by car traffic are some of the most vulnerable to the effects of climate change. With these standards, the Biden administration can accelerate the path to 100% clean cars and begin to turn things around.
Hey, if you're watching this before July 2023, we need your help. EPA is accepting comments on their proposed light-duty vehicle standards. Powerful industry groups with deep pockets are trying to weaken these rules. They're working hard to protect their profits and keep business as usual, at the expense of public health and the climate. We need your support to ensure that the strongest possible version of these rules makes it into law. Go to evergreenaction.com/clean cars and tell EPA to lock in these strong standards.